I remember all the recruiters' names that told me no. I remember all the Elite 11 guys that got chosen over me. So I remember all that stuff. I keep a mental log of it.
Well, it's official. Joe Burrow is leading the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl against the LA Rams. The results of this past weekend's championship game were a total upset. The Bengals had an extraordinary game over the Kansas City Chiefs in a true nail-biter that brought the Bengals from the worst team in the NFL to Super Bowl challengers. The 25-year-old is holding nothing back as he races to the top with his team by his side. And it's no wonder why he's a crowd favorite. His ostentatious and likable attitude means people can't help but love him. In the space of 2 years, he completely reshaped his team's future. And now, in February, he could entirely reroute the course of both his team and football history. As part of our Super Bowl series, we're covering Joe Burrow, the star quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. That being said, I'd love to hear your suggestions for future videos, so tell us who you'd like to see on Where Are They Now by commenting down below. And please don't forget to like this video for more content just like it. Joseph Burrow was born in Iowa to a football family. His father, Jim Burrow, is a former football player and coach whose career lasted over 40 years. So it's no wonder that Joe himself will be introduced to the sport at a very young age. Joe himself was born in Iowa while his father was on staff for the Iowa State Cyclones, a varsity team. Apparently, the athletic lineage doesn't end with his father. Joe's grandmother in the 1940s set a Mississippi State record with an 82-point game in basketball. His grandfather was also a varsity basketball player, and his two older brothers also played football in Nebraska. Joe was born with a history of competitive sports achievements running through his veins. Unlike his father and brothers, who are all defense, Joe started as a quarterback in youth football teams to fill a position. The family moved around a lot for his father's job before settling in the Plains, Ohio, where Joe attended high school. He joined the school's team and led them to 3 straight playoff appearances and the school's first 7 playoff victories in school history. His high school career was so successful that he was awarded the state's Mr. Football Award and the Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior in 2014. He was also an extremely successful basketball player, and he was named first team All-State at point guard in his senior year. He was recruited by Ohio State in 2014 to play football, a specification that is needed because he was also in the runner-up for being in varsity basketball instead. There's no denying this guy is insane at sports, and his career hasn't even begun yet. While in Ohio State, for some reason, Burrows got totally snubbed by his team. He was redshirted in his first year, meaning that he wasn't allowed to play because they wanted to lengthen the amount of time that he was legally allowed to play for the team. Joe would then spend 2 years as a backup for the starter quarterback, and he only played in 10 games. Then he was snubbed as starting quarterback for his 3rd year, when the backup typically usurps the graduating starter. This decision to keep Joe on the sidelines led him to make the decision to transfer to Louisiana State University in 2018. While at LSU, he was immediately named the starting quarterback. He won his team an insane game with a buzzer-beater touchdown that pulled LSU to the victory of 22-21. This move won him the SEC Offensive Player of the Week award, a big deal for the first game that Burrow has completed in school since moving to LSU. Joe Burrow did so well in his varsity football career that he set several records, including records for single-season touchdowns and most completed passes during one game. He was also featured several times over the span of his varsity career in the Offensive Player of the Week award. In December 2019, Burrow was awarded the 2019 Heisman Trophy, which is a super big deal trophy that is awarded annually to the most outstanding player in the entirety of college football in the USA. He beat out his runner-up by more than 1,800 votes, totally blasting him out of the water. It is the largest margin in the history of the award. In his acceptance speech, Joe pointed to the rampant poverty and food insecurity that affected his hometown. His highlight of the issues in his hometown inspired over $450,000 to be donated to local food banks from over 13,000 donors. And that isn't the only award he's won that year, although it's definitely the biggest. He won 6 other game awards for his achievements in varsity. His decorated career in college football wouldn't be over either, as in his last year of studies during the 2019 Peach Bowl, Burrow accounted for 29 of the 39 pass attempts and 7 touchdowns to go along with his rushing touchdown in the victory of 63-28. His 8 total touchdowns in the game broke the bowl game record, and analysts have called his performance one of the greatest in college football history. Some have even called it a masterpiece as he dominated the field and pulled his team to absolute unquestioning victory. While celebrating the monumental victory to this game, he instantly became a fan favorite with a photo of him smoking a cigar going viral. He's pretty funny, and his laid-back attitude after destroying the competing team meant that fans have endeared themselves to him since even before the start of his professional career. Now the 25-year-old can officially start the beginning of his championship career, and what better way than through his last game. Burrow was drafted as the 2020 #1 pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals only had the option to draft Joe Burrow because they were considered the worst team in the league, with a historically awful playoff record. In his rookie year transitioning to being a quarterback for the Bengals, Joe did pretty well, but his season was cut short when he tore 2 ligaments in a game against the Washington football team. Luckily though, in this season, Joe's prowess on the field is extremely apparent. Despite his team being, quote, a franchise so often plagued with heartbreaking losses, Burrow has shown no signs of being bogged down by that history, leading his team in the first postseason run. In a true underdog story, the Bengals have gone in the span of 1 season from being considered one of the worst teams in the NFL to now having just beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a bid to compete for the Super Bowl in February. The championship game that the Bengals played against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday was riveting to say the least. The team left fans on the edge of their seats as each team was neck and neck with one another in the frustrating quarters. Joe Burrow left a furious second half comeback that set the team at a tie with one another, forcing an overtime. With only 9 minutes left on the overtime clock, a field goal was kicked that propelled the formerly worst NFL football team into victory with 27-24. Quote, "It's a special team that's capable of doing special things. We've said that from the get-go, whether people believed us or not. We believed, so we're not surprised," says Coach Zach Taylor, who was in elementary school the last time the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. When Burrow and LSU beat that game back in 2019, the one that led to the cigar photo, the team's defensive tackle, Tyler Shelvin, carried Joe off the field on his shoulder. And in a very sweet demonstration between teammates, when Shelvin was drafted by the Bengals in the 2021 draft, he once again got to pick up Burrow and parade him around on his shoulder after their championship victory. There are tons of fan theories about who's going to win this year's Super Bowl, and honestly, it's anyone's guess at this point. Joe Burrow is an extremely talented young quarterback. He's only 25 and he's just barely begun his career in football, and he's already led his team from the dumps up to the biggest football arena there is. Despite that, he's competing against Matthew Stafford of the LA Rams, a seasoned veteran with an extremely accomplished career. These players have stacked records and their teams are fierce competitors with these quarterbacks at their side leading the way. This is the second Super Bowl matchup between quarterbacks who were selected as #1 overall in their years in the NFL draft. Neither of them have won a Super Bowl yet, so they're both hungry for the victory ring. Quote, "It took Stafford 13 years to get to this stage. Burrow is there in his second season. Which quarterback will be more composed on the stage? It's a true toss-up." Even though sports prediction sites seem to think that the LA Rams are a surefire win this year, a lot of fans believe it's going to be the Youngblood Bengals to take the crown. Joe Burrow is a GOAT, and I can't wait to see how it plays out on the main stage as this beast of a man goes up against a seasoned veteran in a game that is undoubtedly, no matter who wins, going to make football history.
To be a player on a team that was really successful in that situation was a whole bunch of fun.
Matthew Stafford is going to the Super Bowl this February along with the rest of his team in the Los Angeles Rams. But who is the man behind the victory? Well, this guy has unsurprisingly always been insane at football, even in his younger varsity college years. It seems that Stafford was a pretty surefire pick for the NFL draft. And now, having played professionally since 2008, Stafford is ready to take on the biggest arena there is for football in Los Angeles. Having just beat out the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night for the championship, Stafford got 2 touchdown passes and an interception in the win. An insane victory that led to the Rams winning the game 20-17. And now, with the Super Bowl set for February 13th, let's take a look at the man who led his team to victory. To kick off our Super Bowl series is the NFL quarterback for the LA Rams, Matthew Stafford. But I'd love to hear your suggestions for future videos in the comments down below, Super Bowl or otherwise. And please like this video for more content just like it, we've got tons on the way. John Matthew Stafford was born in Tampa, Florida, but moved shortly to a town in Georgia while his father attended university. Stafford went to high school at Highland Park when his family moved to Texas, and it was there that he began his career in football. He was coached by Randy Allen while in high school, Allen being one of the best football coaches in Texas. Matthew was widely considered to be one of the best high school quarterbacks in the United States for the 2006 class, and he seemed to have an insanely bright future ahead of him. While still playing in high school, he led his team to a perfect 15-0 winning record and won them the UIL state championships. His reputation as such a great player led Mel Kiper Jr., a football analyst for ESPN, to correctly predict that Stafford would be an NFL draft before he was even at collegiate level. Quote, Matthew Stafford eventually will be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. Write that down. In 2006, Stafford graduated early from high school and enrolled at the University of Georgia, where he became a freshman quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, a feat that hadn't been accomplished since the 1990s. In a movie-like scene, the starting quarterback was injured and Stafford was forced to come off the bench. Although he had only just begun his training, he won Georgia that game in an 18-0 landslide victory. He was put on the start in their next game and won the team a whopping 34-0, and a few more victories meant that Stafford had an unbeatable 5-0 record. As time went on, despite suffering a few losses, Stafford was named the starting quarterback for the team despite still being a freshman. By 2008, Matthew was given the choice to leave school early to begin his professional career. Several NFL analysts had predicted that Stafford would be the #1 pick in the 2009 NFL Draft. Less than 24 hours before the draft, the Detroit Lions scooped up Stafford in a deal that was, at the time, the most expensive one made, with $41.7 million in guaranteed salary for a 6-year contract. The move was insane and led to Stafford officially joining the Detroit Lions on their roster in 2009. When he began his professional career in 2009, the Lions head coach immediately made Matthew the starting quarterback. He was the first rookie quarterback for the Lions to start since the 1960s. Stafford played a game against the Washington football team and won with a 19-14 victory. This game was significant because it broke the 19-game losing streak that had taken them all the way back to 2007. Their 2-year loss streak was finally over with Matthew Stafford at the helm, steering the ship. He led his team to victory, and when he was temporarily put on injury reserve for a minor knee injury, the team wouldn't win another game without him. That being said, as the years passed, Stafford's reputation would begin to dim. He was working with a team that made wins not uncommon, but certainly not as expected as they had been in the past. He had some good years with the Lions, namely 2011 and 2016, in which he did insanely well. Despite his team not winning as often, his personal records continued to soar. He was the fastest player to reach the milestone of 3,000th career completion in his 125th career game. He also consistently ranked in the upper echelon for top 100 NFL players of the year. It seemed that Matthew hadn't gotten worse, just that his work within the Detroit Lions didn't always necessarily pan out to a victory. The NFL even reported that when Matthew was traded to the Los Angeles Rams, Stafford had, quote, spent 12 years with the lowly Detroit Lions, went 0-3 in the postseason, and was saddled with the distinction of a good quarterback who couldn't win a big game. It seems that that would carry with him, a star quarterback who just couldn't seem to pull the rest of his team up to his level. In 2021, Matthew was traded to the Rams for Jared Goff. The first game he played with the Los Angeles Rams, he threw 321 yards and scored 3 touchdowns, achieving a career-best passer rating and winning the game with 34-14. This game earned him the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Thus began the rise of Matthew Stafford in a way we hadn't seen since his college days. Matthew threw and scored so many touchdowns that he may as well have set up a tent in the NFC Offensive Player of the Week honor. He even won against his former team, the Detroit Lions, in Week 7 of the season with 3 touchdowns and a 28-19 win. It seemed that with his new team, Stafford was once again interacting with the team that fit his playstyle. He set franchise records for pass completions, pass attempts, and passing yards, while tying with another player for passing touchdowns in a single season. The man is a beast, and now he's finally got the team to back him up and prove that he has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks out there. And now, after 13 seasons, Matthew led the LA Rams into the NFC Championship last weekend to decide who would become the team to face off the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2022 Super Bowl. He played against the San Francisco 49ers. In the first quarter of the game, the Rams were down 7-17, and it seemed like a dismal game with the 49ers having such an insane head start. But Stafford managed to drive his team down the field, and he scored a touchdown to his wide receiver, cutting the deficit by 14-17. By the fourth and final quarter, Stafford had 2 more drivers which amounted in field goals, and the Rams took the lead with less than 2 minutes to go until the end of the game. The game was sealed when one final score was made and finished with the Rams winning 20-17. That means that the 49ers had not scored a single goal since the first quarter. It's such an insane victory for Matthew Stafford and his team, ones that we will see the results of in February with the Super Bowl. The game itself will be in the Rams' home stadium, SoFi Stadium. After the championship, Stafford was quoted as saying, quote, "Long time coming, you know? Spent a lot of years in this league and I've loved every minute of it. I feel blessed to be able to play in this league for as long as I have, but I sure am happy for this opportunity, not only for myself, but really so many guys in that locker room that deserve this too." And that's what it is. It's an opportunity to go out there and win another one. The trade that brought Stafford to the Rams in exchange for an okay quarterback, Jared Goff, certainly proved beneficial, who, quote, "can open up the operation and make plays in the heat of the crucible." The coach for the LA Rams himself said, quote, "What he's done, he's elevated everybody around him. He's made me a better coach, he's made his teammates better, he's such a great person. If you don't root for this guy, something's wrong with you." And honestly, that's what I've seen from his fans too. Even Detroit Lions fans were rooting for Stafford, despite him no longer being part of the team, and everyone seems to want him to win, given how approachable and down-to-earth he seems in press interviews. I mean, the first thing he did when his team won was go up and hug his wife in a very sweet moment that was caught on video. And fan reactions to the win seems to be general shows of support for Stafford. His competing quarterback, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, seems to be equally as likable as Matthew is. One Twitter user, Chris Castellani of Barstool Sports, tweeted, quote, "Joe Burrow versus Matthew Stafford, gotta be one of the most likable quarterback matchups in Super Bowl history." It's a true comeback story, with the initial trade for Stafford being heavily scrutinized for his losses. And despite all that, with the right team by his side, Matthew and the LA Rams will be facing up against the Cincinnati Bengals in February of the 2022 Super Bowl.
Many people say you're their hero, but who's your hero?
Who's my hero? That's a great question. Well, I think my dad is my hero.
Is Tom Brady retiring from the NFL after 22 years in the league? Considered to be the greatest quarterback of all time, he was the central contributor of the New England Patriots dynasty that dominated the Super Bowl for the large part of 20 years. Now though, as a player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there are rumors that Brady is finally considering hanging up the helmet. In late January, Brady's retirement was first reported by ESPN before the statement was backtracked because Brady hadn't fully made his mind up yet. Only time will tell if Tom Brady will officially leave the NFL after an extremely decorated career as one of the greatest football players to ever live. Today, as part of our Super Bowl series, we're covering quarterback legend Tom Brady. Tomorrow though, you decide. I'd love to hear who you'd like to see us cover on the next episode of Where Are They Now, whether they're related to the Super Bowl or not. So leave a comment down below, and don't forget to hit the like button for more videos just like this. Tom Brady was born in San Francisco, where he was raised as a fan of football. He regularly attended San Francisco 49ers games with his dad. He also attended football camp and learned how to play the game at a very young age. During high school, Tom was involved in tons of sports, including basketball, baseball, and obviously football. In his high school football career, he was the backup quarterback for his prep college, but he wasn't good enough to advance, having not scored a touchdown all year. Through a stroke of luck though, he became the starting quarterback when the original one was injured, and he held that position until his graduation. By the time his senior year rolled around, Tom had impressed both the team and athletic scouts, who had started to take notice of his prowess on the field. Not only were athletic scouts looking at him for his impressive football career, but there was the expectation that Tom would enter into the basketball sector instead. He was drafted in the 18th round of the 1995 MLB draft, which projected him as a potential all-star. The general manager for the team that wanted to recruit him at the time stated that Brady had the potential to be, quote, "one of the greatest catchers ever." Ultimately though, Brady chose football, and thank God he did. Tom eventually chose the University of Michigan, where he would play college football for 4 years. In the first 2 years, he was a backup quarterback and expressed frustration over the lack of playtime. It got so bad that he considered transferring to UC Berkeley before he decided to work closely with the assistant athletic director of the school, who pushed Brady to maximize his performance on the field and personal confidence. When asked about this time in his life and his mentorship, Brady said, quote, "He will always be somebody I rely on for sound advice and mentorship. He has helped me with my own personal struggles in both athletics and in life. He really pushed me in the direction that I wasn't sure I could go." Eventually, Brady was led on the field, and he gained the position of starter quarterback when he was finally able to show off his abilities. By the time he graduated, he was the team captain and had an impressive win streak. As you may have noticed though, Tom had kind of a lackluster start to his career. He won some games, but ultimately he was kind of overlooked as a quarterback because he was generally pretty mid-tier in skill level. So when he graduated, Brady was only a lightly regarded prospect coming out of college, with an unimpressive performance rate reinforcing his reputation. He wasn't even chosen for the NFL until the 6th round of drafting, and it was by the team that he would eventually carry for the better part of 20 years, the New England Patriots. Now, Brady has started 363 games in 22 seasons, which is the most of any NFL quarterback, within his first 20 seasons being with the Patriots. It is also the most for any NFL quarterback with one franchise. He had a rocky start to his infamy, being a rookie backup quarterback in his first season before he quickly rose up the ranks to being a starter for the 19 other seasons he was with the team. He currently is the most decorated NFL quarterback to exist, having won 243 regular game seasons and 35 postseason games for a combined 278 wins. Tom Brady holds a 76.9 winning percentage, and he is one of only 4 quarterbacks to defeat all 32 NFL teams. And let's not forget that Tom Brady has attended and won 7 Super Bowl titles, the most of any player and more than any NFL franchise. He's appeared in 10 Super Bowls, having lost only 3. Tom Brady holds nearly every major quarterback record, and he is the leader in passing yards, attempts, and touchdown passes for both the regular season and playoffs. His rise to fame has been insane, and whether you like him or not, he is one of the NFL's most decorated and most accomplished players, being considered one of the greatest athletes, period. In his personal life, Tom has 3 kids, one with his girlfriend at the time, actress Bridget Moynihan, and the other 2 with his current wife, a Brazilian model named Giselle. Tom and his family are a little weird to say at the least. Tom follows this nuts, controversial, and super strict diet plan that avoids, quote, most fruits, mushrooms, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, coffee, Gatorade, white sugar, flour, gluten, dairy, cereal, white rice, potatoes, and bread. Like, oh my god, what else is there? Applesauce? He then advocates for drinking half of your body weight in ounces in water, which is an insane amount of water to consume if your body isn't telling you you need it. But you know, who am I to criticize one of the greatest athletes of all time? Maybe the reason why I'm not an all-star quarterback is because I love tomatoes. One scandal that Tom Brady was involved in was the massively controversial allegations that Tom Brady had ordered the deliberate deflation of footballs used in the 2014 championship game to favor his team in the bid for the Super Bowl. The scandal was dubbed Deflategate and made international headlines. If proven, it would mean that Tom Brady willfully attempted to cheat in order to assure his victory. The controversy itself resulted in Brady being suspended for 4 games, while the team was fined $1 million and forfeited 2 draft selections in 2016. It was never even proven whether Brady actually did order the footballs to be deflated after an extremely lengthy and highly publicized legal battle. One documentary titled 4 Games in Fall even tries to prove that it's, quote, highly unlikely and certainly never proven that the footballs Tom Brady used during the AFC Championship game were even deflated beyond what ideal gas law would dictate. So there's even the possibility that Deflategate didn't even happen and could have been the result of faulty gas pressure or mishandled measuring equipment. Either way, despite the controversy, the Patriots won that season's Super Bowl and Brady was named the most valuable player of the game. But his career and public trust definitely suffered for years after the scandal. Now though, it seems that Tom may be considering ending his 22-year career in football. As a man in his mid-40s, he's certainly on the older side of athletes sharing his field, and he's more than contributed enough to the sport. He's the oldest player to be named Super Bowl MVP, and he's the oldest NFL MVP at 44 years old. And because of how demanding and physical the sport is, it's no wonder that Brady would be considering retirement. In a now deleted tweet sent out by ESPN's TB12 Sports that reads, quote, 7 Super Bowl rings, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 league MVP awards, 22 incredible seasons, thank you for it all. The post caused a massive tidal wave of fans assuming that Brady had just announced his retirement. Fans were sounding off in the comments, commemorating Tom for his achievements and all he's done in football. But after the post was removed, a statement was made by Tom's legal team that reads, quote, I understand the advanced speculation about Tom's future. Without getting into the accuracy or inaccuracy of what's being reported, Tom will be the only person to express his plans with complete accuracy. He knows the realities of the football business and planning calendar as well as anybody, so that should be soon. So as of now, we don't know if Tom Brady will actually retire. We do know he's considering it though. Despite joining the Buccaneers in 2020, it seems that Brady's glory days of working alongside Coach Belichick are over. And now it's time for him to potentially relax. This is all speculation though, and absolutely nothing is confirmed. But what do you think? Do you think it's time for Tom Brady to finally relax and allow himself to retire after all these years of dominating the football field? It's refreshing to see other teams and newcomers begin to work the field after Tom slowed down, and I think it's only natural for the man to want to spend more time with his new family now that he's approaching 45 years old this year.
Just what did it mean for you after being here for a year to have a coach
Next question.
standing in your corner?
Next question. We just want to talk about this game.
Oh, Antonio Brown, where do we even begin? He is regarded as the NFL's most controversial player, and there's not much question why. The football wide receiver is a free agent, but it wasn't always that way. In fact, he used to hold the title of the highest paid receiver in the league, but he's garnered the reputation of someone who's pretty much impossible to play with. He's hopped from team to team, and despite his impressive talent on the field, he is currently not signed to any league because of either disputes with fellow team members or allegations about harming women. And now, after he ran off the field during a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, it seems like no team is willing to rehire Antonio. Will he be able to push through his personal hangups to continue his career in the NFL, or is his work with the league all but over as he's swallowed by the negative reputation? Today we're covering scandalous wide receiver Antonio Brown. Tomorrow though, you decide. Let us know in the comments down below who you'd like to see on the next episode of Where Are They Now? And please don't forget to like this video for more content just like it. Antonio Brown was born into greatness. His father was the Arena Football League wide receiver Eddie Brown, who was named the best player in the league's history when he was active in 2006. While in high school, Brown made a name for himself as a standout athlete, but his poor grades meant that he had a hard time transferring his skills to university. He eventually got into North Carolina Prep School, which, if you're not from the USA, means a school that is meant to help students who didn't do so well in high school to get better grades in the hopes of moving on to university or college. While at the prep school, Antonio did exceptionally well in football, scoring 13 touchdowns in only 5 games. He did so well, in fact, that he was able to obtain a scholarship for Florida State. The reputation he has now as someone who gets into fights and commonly disputes with his teammates was starting to become apparent in Florida when he was quickly expelled for an altercation with a security guard. He then got into contact with Michigan State University, where the head coach was impressed with his playing ability and allowed him into the university. While there, Antonio had trouble adjusting to a proper routine of school balanced with sports, and he routinely missed practice. Despite his absences, he did very well and was even named Mid-American Conference Freshman of the Year for his amazing touchdown record as a wide receiver. By his junior season, Antonio Brown decided to forego his senior year in favor of entering the NFL draft early in 2010. He didn't do nearly as well in the draft as he'd hoped, and he got passed up 32 times by different teams before the Steelers decided to take him on as a second choice. He became a backup wide receiver, and his debut on the NFL field shocked everyone who considered him a mid-tier receiver when he became the first player since 2001 to record a kickoff return touchdown in his first game. Antonio Brown was so good, in fact, that on his first season in the NFL, he and his team made it all the way to the Super Bowl for their loss to the Green Bay Packers. He was extremely impressive on the field during this time and regularly made plays that helped elevate the team to a higher standard. During his second season in the NFL, he became the first player in NFL history to have more than 1,000 yards receiving and returning in the same year. The next year, he was the only receiver in NFL history to record 5 receptions and at least 50 yards in every single game in the NFL. As the years passed, Antonio's mastery on the field became apparent. He absolutely dominated during this time, regularly receiving touchdowns and passings at astounding rates. Despite his success as a player, though, he began to engage in conflict with other players and the coach. In 2018, problems started to arise between Antonio and other Steelers players. He had allegedly got into a pretty fierce argument with the Steelers quarterback, and although we're not sure what the argument was about, we do know that after it apparently happened, Antonio started skipping practices right before their game against the Bengals. He skipped so many, in fact, that he was benched for the game because of his unreliability. After the season was over, Antonio indicated that he wasn't happy with his role on the Steelers, and he requested a trade to a different team. Things only got worse when he was traded to the Oakland Raiders. In an introductory press conference, he was quoted as saying, "I'm here to elevate everything around me. I'm here to just be a surge of energy energy of positivity and good force, a great teammate, and to bring out the best of everyone around me because we all know it's not just about me. Despite this sweet sentiment, it would only be a few months before Antonio's obstinate personality became a direct conflict with the team. He filed a grievance to continue wearing his old helmet even though it had been banned because it wasn't as safe as the new ones were against concussions. He even threatened to retire from football if he was forced to wear the new helmet. His grievance was denied, and so Brown got a new helmet that also wasn't up to NFL standards. He wasn't allowed to play with a helmet that didn't properly protect him, and so he continued not practicing with the Raiders in preparation for the new season. Eventually, almost a month after the first grievance was filed, he got a proper helmet, but because of all the mispractices, he was fined $54,000 by the Raiders general manager. In response, Antonio posted the letter to Instagram and blasted the Raiders online, a move that was heavily scrutinized around the league. The very next day, he got into a serious altercation with the manager and had to be held back from hurting him by several teammates. After the fight, he punted a football and was quoted as saying, "Fine me for that." The day after that incident occurred, he showed up to the Raiders team meeting and apologized for his actions. He was set to play in the next game when the team deemed his apology sincere, but he never would because less than 24 hours after he apologized, Antonio demanded a release from the Raiders after they voided his guaranteed money in his contract. He was also fined $215,000 for his fight with the manager of the team. The day wasn't over for Antonio though, because that very same day he demanded to be released from his contract. He was picked up by the New England Patriots for a one-year contract worth an eye-watering $15 million. But Antonio would never see that money because he only played one game with the Patriots before he was kicked from the team. While practicing for the season with the team, Brown was accused of inappropriate and violent behavior towards his personal trainer, Brittany Taylor. She sued him for the harm he caused, and as the trial ramped up, with information being revealed that he sent her intimidating texts to try and silence her, he was promptly cut from the team after playing only one game. The trial eventually settled out of court, with Brittany stating that she just wanted it to be done with already. Brown became known as an extremely controversial figure in the NFL, deliberately starting fights with teammates and harming women. After he was cut from the Patriots, he deliberated on Twitter back and forth about retiring from the NFL. He was suspended for 8 weeks from playing in the NFL because of the league's personal conduct policy regarding the lawsuit. After his suspension, he joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he did extremely well as a player. He did so well, in fact, that the team made it all the way to the Super Bowl, where Brown secured his first championship ring when they decimated the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. Even though he reportedly had an altercation in 2020 with a security guard where he apparently threw a bike at someone, it seemed like Antonio was finally in a team that worked for him. He certainly did very well for the team, but then 2021 rolled around. Despite signing a fancy new deal with the Buccaneers, Brown was placed on the reserve list because he broke the health and safety laws put in place for physical distancing and keeping everyone safe. Then he was suspended once again from the NFL because he got a fake card saying he got the shot. Apparently, what had happened was Antonio's girlfriend at the time got their personal chef to find fake cards for her and the footballer. The chef got the cards, and then after a falling out over uncollected debt, the chef accused Brown of owing him $10,000. Because of that, he also outed Antonio for having a fake card that went against the health and safety protocols of the NFL. Despite his suspension and the shockwaves it made in the community, Antonio stayed on the Buccaneers team once his suspension was up. That was until the infamous in-game blowout. In a scene that was so bizarre, Antonio Brown stormed off the field during a game and threw his jersey, gloves, and helmet to the ground while running to the locker room. He left the game, and in a post-game press conference, it was pretty clear that he was immediately fired when the head coach stated that Brown is, quote, no longer a Buck. 4 days after he stormed off, Antonio released a statement accusing the Buccaneers of a cover-up. The statement said that he was pressured to play the game despite having a broken ankle that required surgery. He then declined to give any medical proof of his broken ankle and continues to this day to accuse the team of forcing him to play. They let him go officially in January 2022, and ever since then he's been a free agent. I feel like that may have been the final nail in the coffin for Antonio, and it seems pretty unlikely that he'll be rehired because despite his insane receiving abilities and his domination of the game itself, he's a total liability and a PR nightmare for the NFL. Nowadays, Brown is weirdly turning his focus to music, having been spotted out with Kanye West on several occasions. He was seen entering recording studios and is reportedly collaborating with Kanye on a few tracks. And now, in early February 2022, it was reported that Brown has officially joined Donda Sports. Donda Sports is a, quote, holistic support to athletes during and beyond their sports career, which, if you're like me, means nothing to you, but basically what I could piece together about the deal is that Brown will be launching a clothing line with Kanye that, quote, provides more creative, genius ideas for fashion looks for athletes in general. So I guess we all have that to look forward to now.